the Chop powered by World Bicycle Relief. My name is Jesper Anker and I'm your host for tonight. If this is your first time watching the Chop, it is basically a race where they go off in staggered starts depending on their ability to pace themselves. Tonight's course is on Watopia. It is the counterclockwise Volcano circuit. You know it very well. You know they go around the volcano, inside the volcano, and they finish on that little falls flat, little steep incline towards the sprint finish, and then we usually see some of the fastest guys in the bunch take it up to the end. Joining me tonight is none other than two of the best commentators and Zwift personalities down under from Australia. First up, we've got one of my best friends, used to be, colleague as well, Wesley Salzberger. How are you doing, man?
I'm great, Jasper, and we've got a fair number in your group tonight. I'm charging for D grade, which are already out there at the moment now. It looks like a group of 27 tonight with Tony Bagshaw as Captione.
Already out on the road is Wesley Salzberger's D group. Also joining us tonight, Pat Shaw. How are you doing, Pat?
Yeah, good, mate. On the start line with the C graders. Staying loyal with the C graders. Even though Wesman rode off his D graders last week, they got the win. So I don't think he's really that much of a power up for his crew, but certainly got a good group here on the line. 10 seconds until C grade starts their race tonight. And a big shout out to one of my locals, Bob Morley, who is in that group from Ballarat.
So just like any great race, we have our journalists, our presenters out on the course on the motorbikes following the race. I believe Wesley has chosen the D category tonight. Pat is sitting behind the C category, and I will be on the A category. And then our producer, Johnny Noblet, drew the shortest straw and has the B group, which is out on course. But Wes, your group has already been out on the road for about 7 minutes, which means they should be on the volcano right about now. What can you tell us about the D riders tonight in the peloton?
Yeah, they're giving a nice amount of instruction to keep things smooth. Tony Bagshaw was making sure that they had a nice, nice clean start, not too aggressive, and it seems like they've all managed that well. They're all rolling through really nicely, doing turns, and they're all in a very nice aero position on the Buffalo bikes tonight as well, Jasper. They've got that funny looking sort of handlebar set up, which is making them sort of look like cyclists almost in a crouching position.
And as the racer you are, Pat, what does it mean to have everybody on equal equipment? Because everybody's going to be, as Wes mentioned, on a Buffalo bike tonight. So there's going to be no glowing Tron bikes. There's going to be no Cervelos. There's going to be no Specialized. What does it mean that everyone is on this great Buffalo bike?
Well, although the bikes do have an effect, I don't think they have that much of an effect in this type of a race, unless your group has several of those types of bikes. So I think it's just a good thing that they're all on the same bikes. Plus, I kind of like the pannier racks and the mud guards mixed with particularly the disc brake carbon deep dish rims.
Hey, it's all about the quality of the bike, man. We only do the very best here in the Chop powered by World Bicycle Relief. I think I saw your group go out on the road as well, Pat. It looks like your C group is out on the road. What can you tell us?
Well, we've got 43 riders tonight in the C grade group. As I said, I've got a local in here tonight, so I'll be rooting, so to speak, for Bob Morley. So we'll keep an eye out for him later on. He is having his first crack. We've also got a young rider from the Wolfpack. I think he is. No, actually, he's from the Fat team down in. No, he's Wolfpack. So Wes could probably tell us a little bit about Stretton. He's an under 17 rider, and I know that this will probably be his last hit out before he heads to the Junior National Championships next week in WA. And I've got a young rider here from Ballarat that's heading over there as well. So we've got 43 riders in this group, and I think that's big enough to get the job done tonight.
Oh, already with the early prediction. But let's go on. Mr. Stretton. Who is this?
I'm unaware of Stretton. I know he's from the Launceston region. I'm not too familiar with Stretton, to be honest. But we have got a good number of Wolfpack Taz riders so taking part in these community-run races. It's great to see another one joining the pack as well.
So the A group is about 50 seconds from being given the go to go and chase down the Bs, the Cs, and the Ds. And I can tell you there's about 40 riders right now on the start line, and we're seeing one of Zwift's biggest trade team, Innovation, show up with around about 6 riders tonight. So it looks like it's going to be a quick and fast chase. So we're doing 27 kilometers in total. I think Zwift Power has it down as 29 kilometers, which is 6 laps of the Volcano circuit. Pat, you said you think your group has got it set for you tonight. What do they need to do? What does the C group need to do tonight in order to stay away from the chasing down hounds that are the A group?
Well, and also the Bs. The Bs have been almost as consistent as the As, and in fact they've stayed out in front of the As 2 out of the last 3 editions of the Chop. So I think the Bs probably initially are the biggest threat for the C graders tonight, but a big group of 43 does certainly help the C grade. We all know what the drafting effect is, and particularly last week for Wes's D graders, they just rode it to perfection. Although they were losing time quite quickly on the Innisbrook course, they executed the perfect plan, and that was full gas from the climb the last time. And well, the rest of the grades underestimated them and they took them out. So hopefully the same thing happens tonight, that the other grades underestimate my great 43 rider strong group in C grade. So we'll see what they can do, but we'll just keep an eye on time gaps. We get a better idea after a full lap has been completed, and particularly once A grade hits the course.
I want to throw the same baton over to you, Wes, because you are the leader, you are the head master chef, the godfather of the D group. How does Tony Bagshaw and the bunch stay away tonight?
Well, they've got a good amount of numbers here, but obviously with that larger group, with Pat chomping at the bit behind us, I think they're going to be caught quite, I reckon. So Tony's driving the ship as he usually does. He's trying to keep everyone quite smooth and at their limit. At the same time, not pushing too hard and trying to keep it smooth. And we see that across the board as well with Ben Gove sort of giving those same instructions, keep things smooth. It's quite easily to get excited and do a bit of a surge, and that can sort of send a domino chain reaction effect through everyone's legs and really snap those legs.
So I know that all the racers are currently listening to this broadcast because it basically functions like race radio to them. So if you are in the Ds, the Cs, or the Bs, listen up, because these are the riders who are chasing you down. In the 40-man A group tonight, we have Zach Johnson, Cameron Roberts, Joshua Bretang, Drew Ginn, Olympic rower, Ollie Jones, Russ Crowder, Kim Little. We've got James Phillips, who has raced the CVR World Cup, Rowan Dever from Ollie Racing. We've got Mr. Pepper, Jesse Riley, and the list goes on. So if you are not scared already, now is the time to get nervous, everybody, because I think they smell blood in the water, guys.
Also, an intimidation factor from Jesper.
Sorry, Pat, what did you say?
Johnson certainly doesn't mind putting an effort in as well. We saw that in a few of the other races recently, and as well as the Zwift National Championships. So it sounds like a very strong group you got there, Jasper. Actually, with with likes of Ollie and Zach and Pepper, Kim Little. The names of the list keep rolling on. So that's a strong group.
Yeah, Pat, you were saying something.
The
Sorry.
difference is, I was just saying you're trying to intimidate my C graders. We're not. They're not intimidated. But secondly to that, the difference of a big group in A grade versus these the other grades like D, C, even B, it seems like that they stick together a lot better in the other 3 grades. In A grade, it tends to be, I don't know, maybe it's the ego gets the better of the A grade category, but they split up and they don't want to wait to stay together as a big group. Where I can see already Tony Bagshaw from the D grade group, which is Wes is following, the messages come through, stick together, we need to stay in numbers. And that's the thing about the front groups of the race, the D and the Cs in particular. Numbers matter. There's safety in numbers. Whilst they got numbers, they got matches to burn. And we've seen it in the past for A grade. They burn those matches often too soon, and they get to the last lap and they just got to go full tilt. There's very few resources left. Generally, Kim Little is one of those very few resources that are left, and he generally puts it on the line for the other riders in A grade. But recently, they have been missing out more often than previous in the Chop series. So I think that even though you've got big numbers back there, It all depends on how the groups ride as a united group. And recently, we've seen D and C grade execute that best out of all of the grades.
And before we get a quick time update from West to see just how far away the D riders are from the rest, to back up your statement, Pat, we did see about 2 weeks ago the A group being completely dysfunctional in the chop. It was Kim Little always in the front. I think during that race he averaged like 5.5 watts per kilo for the entirety of the race, but no one really seemed to wanted to take a turn with him, and he got like visibly upset because they're on the London course, they're getting out Trafalgar Square, and I think at one point he just said, right guys, if no one is working with me, none of us are going to win. So it's interesting to see how the chop, especially in the A category, with what you're saying, Pat, is it really is often the case that you have to work together because they start 10 minutes down on the D group. They have a 10-minute deficit to catch on 27 kilometers of racing. Like, that should be impossible. Like, that should be impossible. But seeing the pace, seeing the different level of skill sets, it's not. It's Zwift. But Wes, where on course are the D riders right now?
The D riders are going right up through the volcano now, climbing up the to the finish line right now, just about to come under the banner. All looking nicely tight and bunched together here. And Tony keeps giving those instructions, and it looks like that they haven't lost anyone. Everyone's all together. The whole 27 riders they started with are sticking on. There's a couple of stragglers just sort of dangling on the back here, but it looks like Tony's sort of actually dropping back and rallying those back onto the wheel as well. So great teamwork there by the captain and making sure that everyone stays together.
And we're seeing, so you just have the D riders on the screen. They are the riders in the white Ingamba kit, while we got the A riders on the screen right now in the World Bicycle Relief kit. And they are just coming underneath the start-finish banner as well. So you can see relatively where they are out on course in perspective to each other. The D category is technically an entire lap up on the A group. So the A group now have the chase caught up for them. What about your group, Pat? Whereabouts are they out on course?
Well, in distance, we've got about a bit over 2 kilometre lead on the A graders at the moment. But a big shout out to Guts, that's all it is, Guts from C grade, who's already been popping aero power-ups on the front of the bunch to help the bunch. And that's what it takes, sacrifice in the chop. It's all about the group, and I'm pretty happy with how they're cruising along at the moment. A lot of words coming through from Ben Gove, though. He just wants them to watch the wattage, don't get too excited. We're just 7.4 Ks into the course.
That's something we haven't really seen from the A group tonight. Usually we have Keith Leonard very vocal in the group telling people, go through the front, use your aero power-up on the front, and so everybody benefits from it. This was something that Ben Gove said earlier for the C category, but I'm not even sure I've seen Keith Leonard on the start line tonight. So Wes, how valuable is it as a group to have that one selective leader who is the voice, who's one voice for the entire group? How important is that in the chop?
It's extremely important to have that. I mean, the riders know that, but to have that captain there and to give that guidance to make sure that they do work together, because it's very easy to get caught up and think that you're smashing it on the front and driving as hard as you can, but if you do go to the front and do those surges, like you said, you're going to lose some of the riders that may be able to give you a couple more turns or maybe survive another lap, which then are your workers. So as collectively as a group, you're a lot quicker, and that sort of comes back to like a team time trial. Pat would know this as well. Like when you have to do a team time trial, you're only as strong as your weakest rider, and that's something that most DSs sort of will get that across. Obviously, you go at everyone at their threshold, but you can't go above the threshold of the weakest rider, because then you're losing riders. Obviously, that doesn't come into effect towards the very end of the race, which then if you lose some, it's not too bad, because you're obviously you sacrifice some to keep the momentum of the group. But early on, it's definitely the group as a whole stick together is definitely going to be quicker.
And here, Wes, we see the first catch of the day technically. It's the A group now catching the D riders, but they still have an entire lap to make up. And you could see, I think Tony Backshaw was telling the troops not to even bother try hanging on, because if you do, you will blow up. And I think it's worth touching on that fact, Pat, because these groups are like divided into categories of fitness, of strength, like just how exactly are the A's decided to be A's, and why are the B's and the B's, and how do you know which category you fit in if you wanted to join the chop?
Yeah, well, I liked that brutal honesty from Tony Bagshaw too. Just not crossing his words. He knows exactly what is required from his group. But basically, you would do your best power of 20 minutes, and you divide that into your body weight, and that gives you your watts per kilo average over that time. That gives you a fair indication of whereabouts you should be group wise. When you sign into Zwift and go to choose an event, it will tell you the watts per kilo requirement per grade. So you're not putting yourself in a grade that's a little bit far-fetched for you, but you're also not putting yourself in a grade that'll be boring and easy. So you always want to challenge yourself, and we've seen that in more recently with riders promoting themselves through the ranks after racing for a couple of weeks. Michael Pepper is one of the better known ones for us, Jesper, who has performed extremely well in B grade, even when caught by A grade, and then took the initiative to put himself up into A grade. Another rider was Jamie Huggett. He promoted himself from B grade to A grade as well. So that's good to see as well, because there's two things you want to get out of it. A, you want to get a true grading for each rider, but also it's great to see riders promoting their abilities. So actually getting something back out of doing these events, because ultimately we all want to go a bit faster and we all want to get a bit fitter.
It's funny, on the duration of a chop season, you can start out in the beginning, because the chop has now been running for about 2 to 3 months. You can start out in the beginning of the chop being a D rider and being led on by Tony Bagshaw, and suddenly you start getting fitter and fitter, you start doing Zwift Academy, etc., and then you move up and you get into Ben Gove's category, which is the C's, and you start riding around with them and you get fitter and fitter and fitter. Then you move up into the B's, and at the end of the chop season, you could technically be in the peloton that you've hated, the one like, because there is a bit of like us versus them feeling in the chop. That's why it works. And you could end up being in the A category, chasing down some of your friends down in the D category, and it builds up this whole like narrative, atmosphere, community, which is really, really great. And I think a lot of that is also owed to the Zwift Academy initiative that's happening on Zwift right now, which Wes, I think you mentioned you graduated from. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, just the other day, it was funny that I did mention to Pat, to finish it off, I left the racing till last. So I finished all the workouts, and I decided to enter a criterium race, a circuit race, and I thought I'd just sneak away in this little race. No one really be of note, and I'll get a win under the belt. But the Zwift Oz champion was in there, so I got a bit of a shock when I saw him start. And Pat Shaw is his coach. I think Patty might have mentioned that I started out pretty well and faded a little bit when he hit me at the end with a K to go.
Let's just say it wasn't Nick that actually gloated. It was his brother that did it on his behalf, and he was there watching the race at the time, and he's like, "Oh yeah, Wes is in there. Make sure you smash him," and he did. So I just said, "Yeah, you won't find me on a race anytime soon, because I don't want Wes to have a return serve." But it's been great, the Zwift Academy. And speaking of graduating, my father will graduate on the weekend. He has his final tick to get the whole 100% approved. And it's definitely, I think we spoke before we came on to the live stream, Wes, and it's motivating for people to be doing the Zwift Academy. Gives them some structure that they're generally not used to, but it also keeps them accountable, and that's good too, because if you can get that extra ride or two in per week, it really can make a huge difference, particularly heading into the summer here in Australia and getting ready for what's noted as the crit season. There's always nothing better than picking up a nice podium in the local crits when the year before you were struggling to finish in the group.
And let's be honest, in Zwift Academy, you get fitter, but you also get exclusive merchandise within the game of Zwift. If you graduate, I believe you get like a green cap, a green jersey, and like a green socks. So I've been way too busy to unfortunately take part in this, but I know that Wes, now that you've graduated, have you blinged yourself out with green Zwift Academy merch?
I has, but before I actually finished the academy, because I hadn't quite earned the jersey, and now that I've finished, I've earned the jersey. But before that, I was rocking the Zwift Academy cap, an all black Zwift Century kit, and green socks. So I was wearing the green cap and green socks, and now I've got the green jersey to go with it. So yeah, I'm pimping that out for the next probably at least a couple of weeks with that outfit. I'm pretty happy with it.
That's good, man. That's what it's all about. Looking at the time gaps currently out on course, as we are roughly halfway now as these hit the 14.5 kilometer mark, at least according to Zwift Power. We are seeing the gap between the D's and the C's is a roughly 3 minutes. Gaps between the C's and the B's is around 27 seconds. And then we have the A's to the B's. That gap is down to about 50 seconds according to the game right now. So with half a race to go, with about 14 kilometers left, it's looking tight. And I think we've already heard Pat Shaw make his prediction, Wes. He believes his group is going to walk away with a victory, easy peasy. But what about you, Wes? Who do you think is going to take the win tonight?
Well, with that A-grade group, there's some strong names. And, I mean, it is a big ask. They have to catch a whole one lap up on my group here. But if my group was to stay away, I'm probably going to have to go with Pete Donoghue from Zwift Fitness. Pete's been in amongst this race a couple now, and I feel that his time to shine is tonight.
Somewhere Pete Donoghue just did a cartwheel. Hearing his name, hearing Zwift Fitness mentioned by the Westy Salzburger. If he wasn't busy racing out there, it'd be... Ooh. Pat, from your group, who do you have an eye out for the victory?
Well, I'm going to be a bit biased tonight. Bob Morley from my local town in Ballarat, he's in the group tonight for C grade. Although I'm not sure if he's signed up to Zwift Power, so he definitely is in the group. I'd have to go for him if my group can survive. But I'm awfully worried about how quickly B grade is closing in on my C grade group. Wes still got a good lead with his D grade group, only losing around about 2/3 to a half to 2/3 of their initial time that they started with. So that's actually a pretty good sign. Going off last week, they really finished strong. So I think D grade's in a good position, but when C and B come together, which looks inevitable, it should be an interesting large group to hopefully hold off the A's. There's nothing like once being an A grader and now spiting them.
Can we just take a step back and realize how great the name Bob Morley is, just for a second, regardless of whether he wins or not tonight? I feel like there is some sort of pun hidden in there somewhere, some sort of dad joke that Wesley Salzburger is itching to get out. You can just feel it in his fingers, but I guess he's going to have to come back next Thursday to race again.
There, but Jesper, just don't worry, be happy, mate.
Told you guys, I told you, he was waiting for it. If the A group wins tonight, I have a soft spot of Ollie Jones. Pat Shaw right now has the biggest smile on his face hearing this, I bet you. But seeing Ollie in the Tuesday night crit, give it everything, see him back at somewhat peak fitness. I like to see if the group comes back together, Ollie somehow cresting the top before Kim Little, before Rowan Dever, before the likes of Aaron Dunn, who doesn't look like he's actually made the start tonight, but good to see him back. That's maybe something we should touch on, Wes, now that we have you here. How come Aaron Dunn has changed his name within the game to Grandad?
I was riding the other day and I saw the Wolfpack Taz, and I did see Grandad, and I said, who is Grandad? And I looked it up, and it was no other than Aaron Dunn. He hasn't informed me, and I haven't prodded to ask why he's named himself Grandpa. But yeah, maybe he usually is one to type while he's racing as well. So maybe Aaron, you can, and I'll report back to you, Jesper.
Good. It could be that Aaron Dunn has now hit that age where he's starting to become a granddad. I mean, maybe peak fitness about to fall off. Maybe best years are behind him. I know Aaron is watching this anyway, so we're just winding him up, guys. But it's fun. So we're looking further back. We're seeing the A's and the B's. 15 seconds now is the gap between them. And then if you look further up, the gap between the B's and the C's looks also to be about 10 seconds. So Pat, when these three groups come together, what's going to happen?
Well, firstly, I think that live timing might be off just a little bit. I will double check that, but I certainly got a good eye on my C group, and we still can't. I reckon it's more like 40 seconds back to B from my group, Jesper, just for an update live from the group.
Okay.
And at the moment, we've gone from 43 riders. We've got 33 left. That's not actually too bad because we've passed the halfway mark almost, and to only have lost excuse me, it only lost 8 or 9 riders is really a good effort by the group, and I hope now they can start to build. But 43 seconds, it's still awfully close. Just depends on how much B grade has spent as they continue to knock time off, now closing it into 35 seconds. So it is a strong B grade group. Interesting to see just how far they are in front of the A graders. Looks like you are right on that. It's about 10 seconds.
It's close, and we see Carl Augustin is the leader of the B group tonight, I believe, from Innovation Cycling. The catch is going to be made here on the incline in towards the Volcano. So with the time gap sounding like to be a tiny bit off on Zwift Power, Wes, you have eyes in the D group. What's the actual current gap between the Ds and the Cs out on course?
It's roughly about 3 minutes when I just last checked. So I'll just double check that again now. Hold on a sec. Just to make sure. It's just under 3 minutes or so now. So yeah, the D group are down to 20 riders now, so they've lost about 7 riders. But the rest of these riders here all look like they're pulling their weight now. So perfect scenario for Mr. Tony Bagshaw and Mr. Zwift Fitness, who's the sprinter of the group tonight. So I'm informed.
Well,
it doesn't get much better for the D group than this, though. Yeah, we see it, Pat. We see it on the screen right now as Kim Little and Mr. Yanko is leading the pace, and it also looks like they're going to catch the B group within a few seconds as well. That's how fast they're going out on course. But a 3-minute gap with 3 laps of racing left, so that's roughly 12 kilometers. 3 minutes in 12 kilometers. They've caught 7 minutes in 17 kilometers. Somebody out there good with a calculator can do the math whether or not it's possible. It's going to be tight. It's going to be close, but that's what the chop is all about. Getting caught or not caught just on the line or just off the line. That's really what makes the chop so special, is that anyone and absolutely everyone can win a stage on any given Thursday night. So this is great racing. Drew Jin popping an aero power up in the A group now, leading the chase to catch the B group out on course. This is tight, Wes. This is really close now, and with the B, the C's, and the A's all together, does that give them more of a chance of catching your group, Wes?
It does, Jesper. It does. I can't see D grade fading tonight. They look like they have a strong group here. This 20 that's left here in quality as well. We actually got a C grader that's been dropped or maybe had a puncher jump in with these guys and off here as well. So that's interesting to see. Another C grader helping out the D graders as well. So a little bit of a rivalry there, but sort of a camaraderie as well.
You might have to get out the rule book on that one. What are the rules of the chop with a upper categories men jumping down? Because technically he could sit at the front at 3.2 while everyone behind him, due to the physics of Zwift, could draft at around 2.5 at a max, which is their upper limit. So not quite sure. That's why we have race commissioner Ben Gove, who goes back and looks at the results and does the justifications, the disqualifications, or congratulations, or whatever's given at that certain point in time out on course. Pat, what are you seeing now? The races have come all together. It's now 2 groups left. What's going to happen?
Well, A grade's going to take out a big win tonight, and they're going to catch D grade in the front of the race at about 1,800 metres to go. It's my calculation, and it's been because of a massive ride. You're following the A grade group, but it looks like it's Drew Jin that's been doing the bulk of the work. he just seems to be consistently at the front and driving it. For those looking for Drew on the stream, or if you're in the game, he does have an orange tick next to his name. So he is absolutely flying out there, but so is this complete A-grade group. It's going to be interesting to see the numbers they've pushed, because in fairness, the C-grade group was pushing towards the maximum allowed wattage for their grade tonight. So I think we've just met a much stronger A-grade.
Wes, for everyone out there not acquainted with Drew Jin, could you give a quick background check on our man with a mythical tick within the game of Zwift?
Well, he was very dominant in the E-Crit series, which we run along last year. He's an Olympic rower. He's an animal in any sport he chooses to dabble in, and he certainly absolutely loves driving the pace very high at that 5 watts per kilo plus even. And he's just a natural born athlete. And he resides in Hobart in Tasmania, and is a big supporter in the community as well, and really gets involved. Usually has a little bit of a banter as well on Zwift Oz, and also on the channels on Zwift Community Live. So great to have Drew in here, and I'm looking forward to seeing whether he can carry A-grade right through. Also, Ollie Jones is in there. I'm looking at, because I've got my Zwift companion app open, and I can see that Ollie Jones, pretty much every time I look down, he's right at the front of that group with the little map, and I can see Ollie's right at the front also up there with Drew. So it's certainly a strong group by A-grade tonight, but at the same time, we have a nice strong group of 20 left in D-grade, and we are going to make everyone work for it, that's for sure.
Time gap is now down to 2 minutes with 2 laps to go of racing. They need to catch a minute a lap. So we're seeing the A riders do about a 5-minute lap. Be interesting to see how quick the D riders are going around. But Pat, what I really want to know now is that since we have 2 mythical beasts on Zwift, there is the Drew Jin, Olympic rower. But if we put him up head to head versus Cameron Worth, who would win? Except for all of us spectators, of course.
Well, it's like the old topical conversation about who was the best bike rider in history. I think, in fairness, I wouldn't mind seeing, say, a 32, 33-year-old Cameron Worth up against the Drew Jin equivalent at the same age. I know what it would turn out to be. One hell of a battle, because both very similar in their execution of cycling. It's pretty much full gas until no one's left. And both have a very large lack of social skills. They don't like a big group. They don't like chit-chat. They like to hear heavy breathing. And both have caused me serious amounts of pain over the years. So I'd like to see that same age Drew Jin versus Cam Worth, and that would actually be a really, really close battle.
It's worth mentioning again, because I mentioned this guy at the beginning of the race. We do see James Phillips of Innovation Cycling in here. He has got a sprint for days, so he is a bigger Kim Little, if you want to say so, a heavier Kim Little. If they bring this guy to the line, if you are an Australian out there listening right now, this is perhaps a man you would not want to take to the line. He's the likes of Linton Savatsky, Luke Ockerby, someone who could take you at the very, very end of affairs on the line. So you might want to look into maybe putting in an attack once you do catch the Ds, because Wes, what is the current time gaps between my group, the A's, and your group, the D's, out on course?
Well, I was just looking on the Zwift companion app as well. It looked like we're almost in the same sort of home stretch instead of the wiggling around. We've just sort of come around the first bend. It looks like Ollie Jones, as I can see, with the A graders are coming around the back part of the course here now and about to climb up. And D grader going up through the Volcano here now. And I'm just going to click back to see whereabouts that time gap. 1:33 to Denver at the moment. So yeah, it's going to come down to the wire, but it's certainly the rest of the group here with Tony Bagshaw are giving everything. I can see power-ups being popped. So everyone is absolutely at their limit here by look of it too. They're all up around that 1.5 watts per kilo at the limit here now. So Tony hasn't been instructing much the last sort of part of this race because he hasn't needed to. Everyone's just going through, giving it their all, and they're going to make A grade really work for this.
Pat, at what point does egos come into play? Because 2 weeks ago, we saw nobody wanting to work with Kim Little. At what point do we see someone holding something back? And once one person starts skipping his turn on the front, then a second person, then a fourth person, then a sixth person, and suddenly it's all slowing down. Do you think we could see that scenario happen very soon?
Well, if they do, then D-grade will win tonight. There's no doubt about that. So they're not, they do not have the luxury. They can now start to see the gap is closing. 1 minute 20 now to D-grade. So that time is coming down, and that time is coming down because of Phillips, the rider who you just spoke about. He's not leaving it for a sprint, fresh legs for a sprint, Jesper. So hats off to him because he's pouring it in. He's doing a massive 5.5 watts he was pushing per kilogram. So really high up there in the wattage there. I think it's like 500 watts he had that pumping out for quite a period of time. Now DeVere takes over, and then Cam Roberts looks interested as well. So this is a really motivated group. They understand that they must work together or they will not pull this off tonight. And I can tell you, they don't want D-grade to win 2 weeks in a row. That would really add salt to the wound.
A massive shout out to the C's and the B riders that have actually stuck around in this A group. We do see Stretton and Palmer from the C group are still within this main A group of peloton, and like they're just raising everything just to stay within the pack, just to follow the pace, whereas the A riders are on the front putting out 5.5. You see Palmer at 4, and he's probably about just to blow and pop at the very end now, but the gap is coming down to about 1:10 now, so the A's are on pace to catch a minute per lap. But is it going to be enough? Pat, you said they're going to get caught with 1,800 meters to go. I think the D riders are going to get caught just at the crest of this climb next time around. Wes, it's only fair you get to make a bold prediction as well. Where do you think they'll get caught if they get caught?
I think they'll get caught in the closing kilometer up to the finish line. I think Bagshaw is giving some strong instructions right now to use any power-ups they gain through this, through the start-finish they're about to come through now. And it looks like the pace has stayed really high here now. They're well over 2.5 watts per kilo now. They're up around the 2.7, even 3. And there, a little bit of a gap's increasing here now, so they really have to make sure that they get their man Pete Donahue in the slipstream here. He's sitting in the middle of the pack, closely followed behind the leader and captain Tony Bagshaw. So yeah, it's going to come down the wire. I reckon they'll get caught under the closing kilometer to go. Hopefully they can hold on, but it looks like they're probably, if they were going to get caught, I reckon it'd be in the closing part up to the finish line.
Pat, take it away. Last level racing. Oh, there it is. I'd never get tired of that, Pat. Thank you very much to Ben Gove, race organizer of the Chop, for sending us an actual bell to use instead of the amount of times me and Wesley way back in the day have used cups, used keys, used whatever we've had around. But now there's another reason to have Pat Shaw stick around, guys, because he has the infamous last lap bell.
Keep me involved for the bell. That's a large compliment. As the A graders went through to get the last lap there, Jesper, right, the time check at about 43 seconds. So we're getting some varied information, but it looks like is D-grade breaking up at the moment a little bit. Tony Bagshaw is saying use those power-ups as much as they can, and they're going to have to. They haven't got a long way to go, but this A-grade group is motivated and can start to see the tail end of that front group of the D-graders.
So when you get to this point in the race, this is where the D-riders have used... Oh, sorry, Wes.
Sorry, Jasper. 21 seconds I can see there now. 18 seconds. So they are gaining very fast right now. So D-grade, if you're listening, give it everything right now. Don't hold back.
But it's at this point in the race where if you are a D-rider, any race over about 25 kilometers, you start to really suffer. Like from personal experience, when I was a D-rider about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, anything over 20 minutes, like once you get to the 30-minute mark, you're just dead. You've just used everything, and this is where the endurance starts to kick in, and it's really tough to have some of that level. So when you're a D-rider right about now is when you're like, oh, I can't go anymore. Give me the crisps. Give me the cup of tea. I want to get off the bike. At least that's what I felt back in the day. So it's tough, 10 seconds. It looks like they're going to get caught, and we're going to come down to a finish between the A riders. It'll be interesting to see how they plan this out now, because there are sprinters in this peloton. Kim Little, James Phillips, Cameron Roberts. 3 guys you do not want to take to a sprint finish. And we say this week in and week out. We expect somebody to take it up. But most often, Pat, nobody really attacks off the front and tries to disrupt the sprint except for a Zach Johnson. Why is that, Pat?
Well, particularly in this style of event, everyone's used to rolling through and taking their turns, so it's difficult to get a break because the group is motivated to stick together. I'm suggesting that they don't want to be too careful here. A grade could come unstuck with these B grades. There's a couple of B grades that are stuck on. Seven Hills from Korea is still in there. I also saw Hugh McKenzie, I think it is, an under 15 rider. Geez, wouldn't that be a story if he could take it out tonight after being caught by A grade? We've seen it before in real life handicap racing, haven't we, Wes? Where a grader out in front, they've got a good mark on the day. They've been caught by A grade, sat in the wheels while everyone else was doing the work, and then popped this massive sprint at the end. Harted is in there as well. So there's 4 or 5 B graders, and well, B grade can pump a good sprint, Jesper. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of the B graders does shake things up here as they go into the final kilometres of this Thursday night chop race.
Here they go. This is the final long straight of the Volcano circuit before they turn left at the very bottom of this and head up the incline for the final time of racing tonight. I think we do owe a massive round of applause, though, for a certain Tony Bagshaw. But before we do that, Drew Ginn has just gone on to the attack. He's doing 7 watts per kilo off the front now, and he's trying to break it up. But we got Fraser, we got Cameron Roberts on it. But Drew Ginn, a man who likes to dish out pain, is going on to the attack right before the left-hand turn as we turn in for the final time of the evening onto this incline. Drew Ginn, not enough of a gap to really go over the top, as the peloton behind him will hit it with so much speed that they should consume him over the top. But if we look now, this is the time to use your feather, your arrows. This is just about the time. The peloton is being led by none other than Michael Pepper. We've got James Phillips following behind as well. We got B riders popping arrow power-ups already just to stay over the top. Ollie Jones is sitting at 9 watts per kilo now. Kim Little is in the front. That's the first kick done. Now you got to recuperate and do it all over again. About 500 meters to go now. That's all that's left of tonight's chop race. It's still way up in the air. Who's going to take it? Another arrow power is being popped. That is Traherne from Innovation Cycling being followed by Ollie Jones. But it looks like Traherne has got such a big jump on everybody else. It's going to be almost impossible to jump this back. Kim Little is going to try. James Phillips is going to try. But it looks like Innovation and Australia is going to take a win tonight unless Kim Little can do the impossible. So it's going to be first Traherne, second place Cameron Roberts, third Kim Little, and fourth James Phillips. Pat Shaw, what did you think of that race?
Well, it's an exceptional effort by A grade. I mean, hats off to D grade. They almost hung on after winning last week, and keep in mind that their gap had been slightly reduced. So a super effort by Tony Bagshaw and his group. But A grade, they take it out tonight, and it was a great win there. But I was expecting a bit more from Phillips there. You talked him up. Maybe that big turn he did on the last lap to make sure they did get the catch really paid a price at the end. So well done to all the riders.
Also, it's worth mentioning that Phillips' teammate Traherne did win the race, so perhaps, this is me saving my bacon, he held something back not to bridge the gap to his very own teammate up in first place. But regardless, Wes, what do you want to see to your what do you want to say to your brave D riders tonight as they almost held on to the win?
They did almost hold on. It was certainly an exciting one. I was backing them right to the end, and I did say that if they got caught, it'd be in the final part of that. But unfortunately, they were caught a little bit earlier than that. But a big chapeau to Tony Bagshaw and his crew for giving it everything. They definitely made A grade work very hard for it. And that last lap with Drew Ginn really driving the pace up as well, certainly just dominoed that time gap straight down. So it was a very exciting race, and D grade will try again, and hopefully so we'll see as well, Pat. Hopefully C grade could catch B grade a little bit earlier, and that might help spur things along. So C grade, Ben Gove, you got your work cut out there. Make sure that you rally your troops up as well. But overall, I thought it was a great race tonight, and well done to everyone that took part.
I think if we are ready, according to our master producer, we might have a replay of the finish. You can let me know in my ear whether or not we do have a replay of that sprint, because it was the initial acceleration, if I do think back to it, it was the initial acceleration of Traherne that really made the decisive factor today, because when he launched the exact moment he popped his aero power up, which actually snapped the elastic. It's a phrase we use a lot, but it made it so that the draft wasn't there from Kim Little, so you can see it on the screen now. Traherne was already gone by the time anyone else popped their own aero power-ups, and they were all without the draft. Cameron Roberts came around just in the last second of Kim Little to pip him into third place. Quite the sprint. And Pat, I don't know about you, but I haven't really heard of Traherne before. Had you?
No, I hadn't, but I did see him. He did slip. He sort of got in the slipstream of those rides where they'd already launched up the first kicker into the Volcano, and he continued it, and they sort of gave him a little gap, just 10 or 15 meters. He popped that aero power up, and he was never coming back after that. It was an absolute perfect move. Aaron Dunn, eat your heart out. He would love that move.
He would have, but he wasn't here tonight either. Cameron Roberts. Wes, is Cameron Roberts turning into the eternal bridesmaid? Like, when's the last time we've seen Cameron actually take a win?
Maybe saving it for one of the NRS races coming up. We've got Amy's Grand Fondo on this weekend, and Zwift will be down there in the Cycling Australia tent. So he may be saving his biscuits for another day, but certainly does not go down without a fight, and will keep trying. So good work, Cameron Roberts, tonight for getting amongst it, and hopefully we can get you up for the big W.
And here, ladies and gentlemen, we do have your preliminary results on the screen right now of the racing today. So I do believe the victory was taken by Scott Traherne of Innovation Cycling. Second place was Cameron Roberts of Vision, Kim Little of Team Experimental, James Phillips in fourth, the Welshman, also from Innovation Cycling, Ollie Jones, good to see him up there, followed by Zach Johnson. We had a few more common names up there with Michael Pepper and Matthew Yankov. Definitely a fast-paced race tonight, and it'll be interesting to jump over to Swift Power and see the average watts being put out, because it looked like that A group was sitting constantly around 5.5, 5 as they were chucking along out on course, and they caught all the three categories tonight. They were all on the same page of the book tonight, and it came out to the win to Scott Traherne. Definitely a name that will be looked upon in the eCrit on Tuesday and the Chop next Thursday, and they will not make the same mistake again. And here, Wesley Salzberger, if you could talk us through some of the race highlights as they happened, as they should pop up on the screen in just a second. So this was the Chop, 29 kilometers long. What did we see tonight, Wes?
Well, we saw a strong group of A-graders. We had Ollie Jones there, Zwift Academy winner. Also Kim Little, the British champion, in amongst it as well here tonight. So some very strong names. Drew Gin also in that A grade group as well. So we did see C grade get caught reasonably early, and Ben Gove, the captain of C grade, was actually dropped from his group a little bit early as well. So he wasn't there to help instruct too much, but it was D grade who were out there on their own, very much for the whole thing. It looked like they were going to hold on. I thought that they had a group of 27 out in front. A grade all got together with the likes of C and B, and that certainly made it very difficult for the D graders, with C grade just with A grade just powering on the pedals, with Drew Gin, 4-time gold medalist, Olympic medalist as well. So Drew Gin, as we were saying earlier, is certainly an animal and got an engine. And it was coming down to when the D grade got in the sights of A. That's when they really started to pour the power on. When they could get in sight, Pat, as you know this from racing as well, if you get those people in sight, it really does take things up a notch in terms of the group's morale. It can certainly boost things along a little bit more. So it was a great ride by D grade, and we can see D grade certainly had a good number, 27 riders in total, and kept about sort of 20 riders till they got caught towards the end.
Pat Shaw, what was your highlight tonight from the Chop? Everything and everything. What was your out-and-out highlight?
Oh, the move by Drew Jim was pretty good at the end, but Trejo to win the tonight's chop race, that was the highlight. And sometimes it's easy just to say that the winner was the highlight, but it wasn't his victory that was the highlight for me. It was the way he executed the use of the aero power up. And in any of the grades, you should watch the way that he executed that in the finish because it was perfect. So that was my highlight. But I have to give a huge shout out to Tony Bagshaw because he continues to be the best group leader, as far as I'm concerned, in the chop so far this year. He just continues to be not only supportive but also tough on his D graders, and he gets the most out of them. I mean, it would have been a big, big turn up for the books if they won twice in 2 weeks in handicap racing. That's very unlikely. But that was my highlight, the big sprint finish for the victory.
I think adding to that point, the most impressive thing about Tony Bagshaw is that not only is he a great leader on the course, but he's also off the course on the Facebook forums. He's really rallied the troops. He's the reason why you see 28, 30 D-riders show up every Thursday. They all want to ride with Tony. He's such a good, just a ride leader, a good guy, and if it wasn't for him, they wouldn't even have a chance of staying away every Thursday. So if we can just find the Tony Bagshaw for every category, it would just be the most insane racing you've ever seen. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all from us tonight here at Zwift Community Live. If you enjoyed it, make sure to follow the page as we do all sort of broadcasts around the clock on Zwift and off Zwift. We'll do this again on Tuesday with the E-Crit, and we'll do it again on Thursday with the Chop. So thank you very much for watching. That's been it for me, Jesper, Pat Shaw, and Wesley Salzberger, and main producer Johnny Noblet. We'll see you all next Tuesday.